Hello, the KNF office hour for April 3rd, 2022. And hopefully this is all working here. Got my microphone going. Want to welcome you to Korean Natural Farming, asking questions here, getting together with the community, and getting deeper into natural farming and microbes. So today I want to start with a reading from the Ching. And today's hexagram is called The Power of the Great. And it says, to achieve true power and true greatness, one must be in harmony with what is right. False power and false greatness can be seen all around us in the world. Through egotistical and aggressive manipulations, many people obtain a temporary position of influence. The I Ching teaches us a different way of acquiring and using power, one that leads to true greatness and enduring influence. The way of the sage unites power with modesty, justice, gentleness, and equanimity. The hexagram Ta Chuang indicates that you have increased your power now by purifying your thoughts and action through contemplation of the principles of higher principles. You have begun to open doors for yourself. Through alignment with what is true and good, you gain insight into situations and the power to resolve them in your favor. But it is important to remember that it is the sage who is the source of your strength. If your ego takes over and wields the power that is at hand, an ensuing misfortune will be great. The I Ching counsels us not to misuse our strength by judging, condemning, punishing, manipulating, or dismissing others. It advises reticence in speech and action. More often than not, the truly superior person relies on stillness and non-action, allowing the inner truth to penetrate gently to the heart of difficulty. I Ching also cautions us to wait patiently for the appropriate time for speech or action. Power can make us eager, but eagerness unbalances and leads us into trouble. By listening carefully and patiently to the sage, we know when to move ahead, when to wait, and when to retreat. In the end, true greatness comes only to those in whom strength and proper principles are firmly united. If you follow the sage and persevere steadfastly in what is correct, you will inherit the power of the great. Oh, well, that's a good one for today. Again, always non-action being recommended. What's up from Malaysia at 3 in the morning and Tanzania? How's it, guys? Um, okay. Hey Cheryl, how's it? Good to see you, the Goofman. How's it, you guys? Yeah, Florida. Oh man, the whole country, United States, showing up here. And let's see here. There's a question already. We'll get to here. Mm, Okay, so Benjamin is asking, first off, that he hopes we're all having a good week. So hope that's true with everybody. And but what application does KNF have in vermicompost setup worm bin? So this is an interesting question. You know, I've one of the microbes that really helps in a worm bin is using the lactic acid bacteria, the protectors, are extremely good at helping to rapidly break down the worm bin, also helping the material to decompose faster as the worms crawl through, helps boost the worm's immune system. Um, but other things from KNF that go well with vermicomposting is taking like the end of your fermented plant juice. Like when you've made KNF food and you got a bunch of this material that's fermented that's already starting to break down, that's sugary, that's plant pulp, fruit pulp, putting that stuff onto the worm bin in a way that you're not going to like overheat it or oversaturate it, but putting it on, like kind of like a thin layer over the top of a worm bin, um, the worms will start to climb up into that, and those juices that are left over in the material will also leak down into where the worms are eating. And so that synergy of, the worms eating that new stuff and them eating that, um, things I would not add to the worm bin are the leftovers from making the KNF medicine, where you have, the alcohol and those strong herbs. Um, I've known people who have killed their worms by trying to compost that with the Ching, or excuse me, with the OHN. I'm sorry, I was reading the screen and okay, so um yeah, so what Eyewitness is saying to, spraying LAB on the food before you put it in the bins. The other thing, I don't know, I mean, you probably know this as a worm keeper, but is to chop your material real fine before you add it to a worm bin. Some folks I know throw it through an old garbage disposal, grind it up, add your KNF inoculants in with those foods. Um, and if you are going to add the OHN, it's 1 to 1,000. It's not like adding the material; it's much higher concentration than that. But all your KNF implements or solutions go into that ground up stuff, put it in, and make a worm bin food from adding those extra KNF amendments as well. That I Ching was number, I think it should, no, I think no, I'm not sure. I'll look it up another time. What I Ching it was. Maybe someone else remembers which one it was. I did read it in the beginning. Remembering the name, remembering what the principle is, reticence in speech, telling you guys too much. Yeah. So, yeah, Cape Town, Africa. You guys are tuning in from around the world. So post up media saying he's preparing our IMOs. Still need a few more collections, but when we get the IMO4, how do we apply it to an area that have existing trees we planted? We are in a tropical rainforest, heavy rainfall. Um, I I think I got a video on how to apply it to a tree here, and I'm in pretty much tropical rainforest, and I get about 200 inches of rain. So let me see here if I can pull this up here, and yeah, this video right here. So I'm gonna uh, this and just click on it here, switch screen over, and then switch my screen. Okay, so here on the right side here, or excuse me, you guys are looking at it here is this video here. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see in that video how basically what we're doing is kind of spreading around on a fruit tree just around the perimeter, the drip line, and treating that area kind of like a donut with the IMOs. And we also made some biochar there, where the biochar was first soaked in the fuel. And yeah, so that's just like standard application. Yeah, it kind of is in the book. But making these videos that complement the book and these things together, um, so that we can make it clear, because sometimes just reading about it is not as clear as just watching the video. But those videos um, don't really have any um, text or explanation with them. They're just like the videos themselves, so it really does complement with the book to a certain degree. Um, Maybe eventually put a bunch of subtitles that um, make those videos where there's more text to them. But I think just showing the visual, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So a video is probably worth a book. um, but trying to have those two complement each other. What's up, Ollie? How's Oregon? How's Bend? Hope you guys are doing well up there. Um, Yeah, there's a whole method that I teach too. Yep. Um, okay. Um, you get 150 inches average of rainfall. I get about 180, 200, somewhere in there. It comes down heavy. And that's the way I do it. So the basic idea is that, here's your ground. Here's your, you put your IMO4 there. These IMO4 are like trained leaders. And when you put it down, they, then the next thing you do is you spray foods on top. And it basically activates the IMO that are trained to work in your soil. They then work their way in, and by the next 24 hours or so of the sun going over, these microbes have already worked their way into the ground and are starting like leadership classes in the soil down below. And that's what they're doing. You know, that's the whole point of putting the IMOs is these guys that you've trained up in this whole process of making IMOs, collecting them, selecting them, breeding them, growing them, training them, then you apply them back to your field, you put them on the surface, they then start offering leadership courses, and those foods that you add, they then distribute that and get your soil to become productive. And so it's a combo of putting the good microbes back on the top and then feeding them those liquids, which I just sprayed on in that video. You could see I just sprayed it. Um, and that's basically the soil prep solution that was sprayed on top of the microbes that I dusted out there around a donut. And as I water them, then they come to life, they activate in, and then it's just a matter of coming back and putting those foods back on the top because those microbes are already there building the soil foundation. And so that's the whole idea. Like if a whole bunch of rain comes, tries to wash that away, well, it's actually that microbial leadership that's building pipes and tubes and engineers and people living, and especially if I put the biochar, now those microbes are living there. And so as much rain can come as possible, and it's just more oxygenated water that as more of them are living there and as they make it deeper, it's not like they can be washed away. They actually become there and they oppose erosion as they build humic structures that actually holds the soil, earth minerals, the dirt in place. So as these microbes grow, they actually hold the soil. They actually build it, and so they can't be washed away. I mean, like by definition, that's like it, that's what they're trying to do. So, inoculating the top, feeding them, as they penetrate in, they can't be washed away. And then those nutrients that I'm adding also can't be washed away because as soon as I add nutrients to the top, that biology like uh, absorbs and digests and eats that all that food. It's like you can't just like leave food laying around to wash away because someone's already ate it, and then that system then exchanges minerals and nutrients and lives and dies and becomes nutrients, and you know the whole soil food web is operating where there's nematodes and things flying around and eating and producing nutrients. So if that makes sense, that's what the IMO4 is. It's that jump start to say, okay, I want to put it in this area, and that's where I want leadership training to occur because that's where I want the soil first start to um, come to life, and that's where your most bang for your buck as a farmer, getting an economic return from building that soil in that area will benefit you, right? You can then get more fruit, which then makes more ferments, which makes more food to grow. And so that's the reason to kind of start there around your trees where you need that leadership in your soil, where you need those microbes, where you need all those things happening. I mean, that's the thing that you want to get going. So hopefully, kind of a long answer, but really kind of, breaking down the IMOs as like theory, as practice, as understanding they can't wash away, right? And it's yeah, dusting about 5 pounds per 100 square feet, as Eyewitness said here, applying it and also, putting the soil solution, which again, is always in my book, which you can get at knfsupport .com. And, at this website here, you can just go and download the recipe book here. Um, and it has all the formulations in there. I also have an app that you may have seen in the video too that gives you these formulations, and it's kind of handy dandy because I can say, okay, I want to put down 10 gallons around the fruit tree, so I'm gonna need you know yay much solutions and things. So calculate it for you that way. Makes it easy. But yeah, it sounds like you have a very similar ecosystem to what I have here in Hawaii, Hilo-side, rainy. KNF absolutely works here. And there's a video where it talks about IMOs breaking down rocks. There totally is. Let me find that for you here. Yeah, so that's this video here.
And this is probably like the smallest lava rock that we added, and we added like a whole, like more than a 5-gallon bucket of rocks to it, and over time they just turn into these like little baby rocks, and it creates this like this inoculant, this like living IMO4.
Yeah, so that video, let me put that in the comments here, and then yeah, so that's just showing just quickly there. That's my buddy David showing how he put lava rocks into the IMO4 pile itself as he was turning it, and those things were totally starting to break down the rocks. And that's like a prime mineral source is rock itself. Like rock is solidified minerals for you. So being able to break those down, um, yeah, just starting the journey and then finding someone to mentor you. You see these people tuning in from across the world, finding someone that's near you that's already practicing, that's been into this. Yeah, the parent material. Yeah, yeah. Um, s- s- um, yeah. So what else is going on? Natural farming. What does KNF suggest for pests and diseases control in tomatoes? What do I suggest? Number one, getting the health up. If you have healthy soil, it's easy to have a healthy plant, and it's easy to produce healthy food from healthy plants, and then it's easy to grow healthy humans. So, the number one thing to prevent pests is healthy plants. Now, that may sound philosophical and whatever and unattainable, but that's what I suggest. Now, what are practical things to do? Well, getting the book, learning all about those things, starting to use those. If you're already using those, you're already doing maintenance solution weekly on, tomato plants, and and you still have these issues at that point, then it's time to get out, understand what pests you have. Then from that understanding what pests you have, you can go about a solution of making soap, which all these recipes are in the book. There's other books out there that have these recipes as well. Um, but this this recipe here, let's see. Let me get it, open it up here and see what the, bring the recipe book over here. So so in the recipe book here, It's the newest edition out. Um, there is soap recipe, and this is just a standard Castile soap. But making this type of soap where you add a little bit of water to potassium hydroxide. Once that heats up, then you add in canola oil or vegetable oil. And then eventually, after that congeals and you wait for that to solidify, then you add in the second water of 4 more liters of water, which renders you 5 liters of liquid soap from this process, which is outlined kind of here. Um, and there's other ways, other videos on this on the internet of how to do it as well. Um, but once you make this soap, then you can add in different herbs that you boil down, and that may help you as well, depending on the pest. And you all got to do testing and sampling to see, so you don't kill your tomatoes, but kill the pests themselves, and you can target them. And this is a fairly well-known method by Young Sung Cho, who talks about these things in his book in detail. Um, so So yeah, and you're talking about there's bug traps you can make. Yes, you can make a bug trap by making KNF food, and then as an aromatic attractant, and make a trap to get the bugs to go into. Um, all those things work. Um, and Eyewitness is asking, should I be worried about too much sugar with the KNF fuel? And let me answer that by showing you here. Um, this here, which these are the ingredients for the 7 prescriptions. So how the 9 core solutions make the 7 different prescriptions here. And let me zoom out just there. See this whole page. But these are the 7 different prescriptions, and several of them call for fuel. These 4 right here call for fuel. And you'll notice that when they call for fuel, it's diluted 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,000, 1 to 3,000, 1 to 3,000. So 1 milliliter per gallon or 4 milliliters per gallon are the dilution for these. And you will notice by the time you dilute that much, should you be worried about too much sugar? By the time you're using it, diluting it that much, there's really not that much sugar in there. It's almost homeopathic in terms of its um, content of sugar. So should you be worried about too much sugar? I doubt it, especially if you're diluting properly. Those, like the use guides, all these things, uh, you know, this formulation guide here showing you exactly what you need and how to use it. That's the way. Um, yeah, because your approach. And so if you're talking about if too much sugar, if you're talking about this recipe here, because there's always multiple ways to interpret things, but if you are making fuel here on this recipe, and should you be worried about too much sugar in this part here while you're making it, your answer could be it's just a matter of cost. If your sugar is falling to the bottom of this bucket here, and let me zoom in a little bit, but if all your sugar falls to the bottom and you end up with a super thick layer and the fish floats to the top, and you don't have something to hold it down under this, and you're just continually adding sugar and it's accumulating at the bottom, then you might worry about it. Um, so if you're adding too much sugar to your bucket, yeah, you could just be wasting money, right? I mean, what's the if you have extra sugar, I would say a little bit more is better than a little bit less there. In that case, a little bit more is better than a little bit less. Um, so let's you're asking, do I have goats? No. But if you feed goats IMO4 into their feed, you take whatever you're feeding them, put about 10% their feed to be IMO4, so activated IMO, the dirt with the good microbes in there. You put it into their feed, and you ferment their feed with the maintenance solution overnight. Then you feed it to your goats. Assuming you do supplement some of their feed, they may just be wild eating, but if they aren't, just give them this little treat of this food where 10% of it's IMO4, and then they will start to poop perfect little IMO um, pellets wherever you want, wherever you pen them up, and they will give you perfect IMO inoculation, IMO, like bio pellets that are IMOs plus digested food. And goats are the best IMO4 pelletizers you could possibly get. Um, so, um, okay, so here, De Goofman is saying in JADAM there's JWA and different JLFs you can use. Yep. And I just those things I just have in the book here. I just call them disgustingly cheap food. And just packing different plants that you have into a barrel and adding water and soil. And these things are just, you can make them from whatever, and get different balances of different, nutrient profiles. Depends on whatever you're adding to your barrel, right? So, so all these recipes, they're kind of open source and out there, and um, you know, naming them properly, getting the right things. It's basically what are you making? It's like disgustingly cheap food. You know, it just tells it what it is. You know, uh, okay. Mike, you say you're trying to sprout black, red, white quinoa and hemp seeds. I don't know. Do you have any experience with the seed soak solution? So here, um, as one of the formulas here, this seed soak solution, where you put in food, cleanser, medicine, structure, fuel, minerals, and also into there, including um, like sprout water. You have it. Uh, they use maltose is what they call it in this as well to sprout seeds. Um, I don't know if you've tried that when you soak your seeds for 15 minutes up to a couple hours, depending on how slow it sprouts. It's a fast sprouting thing like lettuce. You just soak it for about 15 minutes in there, um, and then you can dry it off and put it into a seeder, or you can just plant it wet. Sometimes the easiest way for me is just to put the seeds in the seed soak solution, and then just pour them out as I go through the garden bed, um, as a liquid into the soil itself. Just swirl it up so the seeds are floating, and then just pour it out. I get nice even seed distribution right out of my seed soak solution. Um, and yeah, Greek yogurt. um, okay, so Eyewitness is saying I was amazed how much my IMOs took away the fishy smell whenever I was sprinkling it everywhere the fish was. The hand it's sprinkling with practically no smell. The hand I handled. So it sounds like, yeah, using IMOs to clean up fishy smells, stink. No smell of pigs, no smell gardens, no smell whatever you need. Let's see here. Um, hey, yeah, I'm doing okay, Sam. So thanks for asking. Um, the rainy season is starting here in CR. Where's that? Reach different sources saying to avoid collecting IMO in rainy season to avoid anaerobic conditions. Any suggestions? Um, so if you're asking about collecting IMO where it's rainy, it's funny that previously a bunch of people had been asking me about collecting IMO where it's dry. And so I'd say, okay, I'll spray the area first with these solutions to activate the IMOs and then set the box afterward. And you can go look back at previous office hours on that. But in really rainy places, it's possible to just put a very large tarp. So think of like at least a 3 meter or 10-foot tarp, maybe even twice that, maybe even a 6 or 10, 20-foot tarp, 20 by 20 over the area you're going to collect to really keep the water from running underneath and coming and wicking up through the soil. Oftentimes when I'm collecting and it's too rainy, the extra moisture actually comes from the bottom up into my box and into my rice. So, Costa Rica. Cool. Good to know. Thanks, my tropical brother. Um, so I would say put a larger tarp over your area, collecting that way, and or in your rainy season, just go with other. Like the rainy season is a great time to use the disgustingly cheap microbes. So instead of trying to go through the CHO IMO process, using this recipe here, which is just disgustingly cheap microbes, where you're just taking some microbial rich soil, adding it to starch, salt, and water, letting it ferment, and then dumping it over on your land. Because as this recipe here is only making 5 gallons of microbe solution, but it's rendering 50 gallons. So this is supposed to be diluted about 10 to 1. And the more you dilute it, the more water you add, the better. But if you have a rainy season, just make a whole like 50 gallons of this, or in an area, and try to make this disgustingly cheap microbe solution here on the upper hillside of where you're planting. Make a bunch of barrels of this and then just kick it over. And then as that microbes flow down while it's raining, they'll carry it further, they'll soak it in better, and your whole area will really be inoculated quickly using this disgustingly cheap microbes. And it's just a simple way in the rainy season to really benefit yourself. I mean, other than that, if you can get the microbes out there already with IMO4 and then putting the solutions, just kind of standard recipe out there, you'll really benefit as well. But if you're trying to go collect IMO during your rainy season, it's here in Hawaii it rains about 200 inches a year, and I'm able to do collections all the time. Sometimes it'll be not raining for a week, 2 weeks, and by that I mean just minor rain. Like when I talk about rain, I'm talking about, I don't think other people understand. Other people would say, oh, that's flooding. Like sometimes it'll rain like 3-4 inches and over in 24 hours here, which anywhere else that'd be like catastrophic flooding. Or else it's it's a normal kind of night day thing, and it's during that time it's not advisable to collect. But I think you'll be able to do it quite well. Especially your tropical weather, you shouldn't have too long of a collection out there. Set the box, get it, and then probably 5 days, collect it, bring it in. You'll probably have great results. Um, yeah. So hope that helps you, Sam. Figuring it out. If you let me know if you got any other questions on that. And can liquid IMO apply as a foliar spray only? When is the drenched soil almost possible? Kind of not understanding your question. Can liquid IMO apply as a foliar spray only? So are you saying like, can you take like this recipe here, like the maintenance solution where I'm adding food cleanser medicine, and then adding in like some IMOs into this, some IMO 1 or 4 or 3 or whatever IMOs, add that in here to this thing and kind of brew it up as a tea and spray it like a liquid IMO. Are you saying, can I use that only as a foliar? And the answer is, if I have high quality IMOs in there, and I have, I'm able to like microscope what mixture I'm making, my liquid IMO, what am I feeding it? What microbes do I have? If it's good stuff, then yeah, just spray it foliarly. If it's not as great stuff, then spray it into the soil and you get better results because the soil has other microbes that'll interact. And if you're not spraying good microbes on your canopy, you can mess it up quickly. But if so you want to scope it, make sure you have enough fungus, bacteria. It gets real complex. But um, just making these solutions here, and foliar spraying these, and then adding your microbes to your soil layer. So making your liquid, and then when you do add microbes, spray your soil with this solution here, this soil solution. But largely just following these recipes of spreading the microbes, 3 pounds, 100 square feet, 1,200 pounds an acre. Repeat that every seven, and then repeat it every 7 days is drenching here. So you drench 4 times in a row, and you put your microbes out there. So using this formula here. Anyway, funny when I go over the book here, I always think, man, I gotta make this simpler and easier. Understand why you guys tune in here to learn. I mean, it's so much, it's so rich. I've been doing this for 10, 12 years, 14, 15 years. I don't know, long time. 2007 till now. And so for me, it's kind of second nature, but understanding these formulas, when to use it, what to do, I think this translation of understanding food, medicine, cleanser, structure, fuel, all these words that we're already familiar with helps us. If you can think that way, then you can start to achieve living soil. Um, okay, so post up media saying when you achieve living soil, you can more successfully adopt plants from outside your region that may typically like a different climate. Have you had any success with this? Yeah, I mean, totally. Here in Hawaii, we're not like lettuce isn't what you're supposed to necessarily be growing, but we um, grow in raised garden beds, our food tacos, and plant lettuces, cilantros, things that aren't typically found here. They're more cooler, Mediterranean climate. Plants like lettuce and stuff, does really well in California, um, or cooler climates, and we grow it here, using natural farming. So you get your soil foundation together, and then you spray foliarly with these solutions, and it works. You can grow I believe you can grow anything anywhere if you wanted to. Um, it, it's all, it's just the magic of natural farming and what we do. Um, so, so yeah. Um, okay. So Tor here is asking any experience with FAA other than beings such as snails. So I've done it. I've done it with pigs and mongoose and all those other types of critters to make fish aminos. But let me show you here. There is a uh, thing called KAA, which is cohol amino acid. Um, and show here. Anyway, you can look it up. It's called KAA, cohol amino acid, and people have made it from slugs in the Philippines a lot, and those things. So you can make those aminos from pretty much any. Uh, so Dan is asking how long do I soak the seeds for, and it depends on what seed I'm soaking. If I'm like in it, how fast they sprout. So if seeds are sprouting quickly, meaning like things like lettuce, they sprout pretty darn quick. And so soak in it somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour or so with lettuce. And then things like corn, which take a long time to sprout for me, um, I would soak much longer, such as maybe 3, 4 hours. Um, and then something like like an avocado seed or something like a big thing like that that I want to sprout, soaking it for a full day in the seed soak solution. Um, and it all depends on how fast your plant's going to sprout, and how long, and you want to soak it just so that what you're doing when you're soaking a seed, like I can explain the seed soak theory here, is here's your seed hard, trying to protect your seed. But what's happened is inside our seeds from our last set of plant that put out this seed, it didn't necessarily have the great microbiome on it, right? You don't necessarily, if you don't know where your seeds are coming from, you don't know what microbiome it had. Maybe that plant was like riddled with fungus or something and just put out this seed, and then you get it, and then they're giving this seed to you. So the microbiome transfer from the parent to the juvenile is very weak. And then the seed is dried out, stored, and then given to you. And when you go to soak it, what you're doing is you're putting it in this liquid that has all these enzymes that start breaking down or breaking down the seed coating. But also, as it does that, it feeds the biology. And if you're able to put like lactobacillus, the protectors, in there, as well as a little bit of the indigenous microbes in there, those microbes start to penetrate into the seed coating. Now, when then you can take the seed out of it. So as it soaks in, those that time period enables the microbes to break that, kind of soften the seed and to coat the outside of the seed. Then you can dry those seeds off, put it into your seeder, seed them, or like I said, seed them wet. But then when that seed now sprouts, it has all this microbial covering on it. So instead of having fungus and whatever from before where you got your seed and you didn't soak it, and it had whatever biology on there, now you're getting this biology, this seed that's been soaked. And so when it sprouts, its first cotyledons that come out are covered in biology. They're covered in those indigenous microbes. They're covered in lactobacillus. And so those microbes are there, they're present, they can help the plant emerge, and the cotyledons can get to even twice the size of what usually happens. And so it's a way of like powering up and giving those microbes and protecting that first growth that happens. And then now, once those cotyledons have popped and you got this seed that sprouted this way, it's covered in microbes. Now you treat it with more Korean natural farming solution, and then it can grow even further. And it's always protected by this like microbial hug, in a certain sense, that it always has this microbial armor on it. And it always has this, that's the whole reason for the seed soak. I mean, it's really like, why do it? Why take the time? It's because imagine if when you it's similar to like, when we're birthed out and we come out of our mother and we come out through the birth canal, and we're covered in the microbiome, versus if you get a cesarean section where your baby is pulled out and it doesn't have the same microbiome. It's the same, like you can take that baby and then put it into this like kind of seed soak solution, put it in a microbiome solution that would then inoculate it with its microbe as if it was naturally birthed. So if that, I mean, that analogy is a little bit far from this, but it's that same idea of, your seed should inherit the microbiology of its parents, and if it doesn't, then you can soak it this way. And natural birth, the more microbiome you have on your parent, then when you plant that seed, the more microbiome, you got to think about not just like the microbiome on the outside of the seed, but also the microbiome in the seed. All right, there's all kinds of microbes that live in plant cells. There's all kinds of microbes that live in my body, and all those are nourished by this seed soak solution. All these things, you're trying to nourish this whole microbiome that sometimes we forget about and we don't remember, but that's what the whole seed soak is all about. Um, yeah. Um, so yeah, so anyway, would I recommend taking his class on the East Coast as an alternative to yours? Um, I would think the more natural farming information you get, the better. Um, you know, Chris has his pros and his cons, as all of us do. Um, but I think, learning natural farming, even if you know, yeah, each teacher has their own style, has their own way of doing it, has their own thing they're bringing to the table. What I recommend is class. Maybe, yeah, I mean, I think the more natural farming you can learn, the better off you're going to be. For me, I learned when I started learning natural farming, I had all kinds of diverse teachers, um, and learned you know, from all kinds of people. And every time it benefited me because I was able to see between my teachers what worked best for me and not get too dogmatic one way or another and not say, oh, you know, not worship in a certain sense, but respect and to understand. And when I learned, Master Cho's methods and I understand what he's doing, I really learned that he's like a wizard, like beyond belief. Like his stuff is just on a level that's just phenomenal and out there. And I wish, could just sit and learn with him for years. But without that opportunity, it's hard. And I did get a lot of opportunity to go and study directly with him and see and do it hands on. And that, hands on is the way to learn. So what I would recommend is if you can get a hands on class, go take it. I got students out there on the East Coast. I hope you can tune in with them. I really got to encourage the students, especially those that have taken my teacher training, to start teaching. I know these past 2 years have been hard. I haven't even really been teaching as much as I, can. And I've been doing it here, but I used to, travel all over America and do all this stuff. And it's a challenge. So, but if, the more teachers you can learn from, the better. Just do realize there is not good info out there. There's good info and there's not good info. And it's like, it's up to it. But how do you determine that? It's like, well, what works for you, right? Just because someone said something and has these things, and that's when I start talking about Chris, I talk about these differences because we do teach a little differently for sure. I'm really in depth. I have small classes. I bring people in. I really try to, impart this knowledge in a way where it's from the heart. I mean, you know, and yeah. So anyway, the more people you can learn from, I guess, is I would encourage that the better. And the more you can teach and spread these things, even if you're half right, you're a lot better than doing nothing, right? Um, and it's all about the microbes. It's all about getting these things into the soil. Um, speaking of that, it's like, um, that's why what this um thing here is brought about is by the Pure KNF Foundation. And the mission of the Pure KNF Foundation is to balance life through microbial awareness, education, action. So anyone who's doing those things, uh, you know, awareness, education, and action is in alignment with what we're doing, and this being sponsored by them and all these things, all these folks out there working together. I really, really hope that the larger part of this is that we're teaching natural farming. So yeah, encouraging teachers to work together, to take classes from each other, uh, and to learn, and appreciate the folks that make the time to come out here to learn. But um, we'll see. Right now, I don't even have any courses planned here. So yeah, I've been just doing this office hour and reaching out globally. Appreciate you guys tuning in. So, and yeah, Thomas did. Eyewitness came out here to take the class, and it was useful. So, and if you think it costs a lot to fly, man, look for people to sponsor you. If you're on the East Coast, you want to fly out here. There's so many crowdsourcing things and people that imagine if you talk to 5, 6 other farmers, folks that say, "Hey, look, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna take a week. I'm gonna go learn with Drake, and when I get back, I'm gonna teach this stuff, and I'm gonna, everything I learn, I'm gonna bring back to you guys, and I'm gonna bring this hands-on stuff." And now all of a sudden, something that seemed expensive and unattainable now became where it's like, man, like that was actually really inexpensive for everyone to get that quality of learning, to take someone who's like super passionate, send them to the source, send them here to a living, working KNF farm where that's what we do. Like Sue's just sitting there right now working on natural farming stuff, tr- translating some of this. Like we live and breathe natural farming. That's what we do here. And so finding the people to sponsor you to come here to take the time to learn, and then teaching them, it's actually, I think it's a really attainable goal. So if you think of it, Ben, if you want to come out, you want to figure that out, let me know. I'm more than happy to help, sponsor something and accommodate you in your path to learn. Because if you bring this back to the East Coast, then there's 5, 10, 15 more farmers, and you become a teaching hub, and then more people learn and more people spread. The faster the microbes get out there, the faster our planet has a chance, the more we actually have a true economy growing from the wealth of the nation. People always say labor is the wealth of a nation, but it's actually the soil. The soil's beneath labor. If your labor is hungry, your labor can't do anything. The soil, the food, the tilth of the nation is actually the wealth of a nation. And it's understanding that, and then in our new world order that we're creating, of microbes, of feeding people, of feeding the soil, of growing these things, that as we spread more people that learn to more areas, that's what makes this movement happen. So if you're thinking of it, man, let me know. That's like, what else do I want to do with my time, man? Oh, Ben came here for a week. I taught him natural farming. Now he's teaching all these other folks. That's what Thomas did, right? He's out in Florida. He's getting groups together. He's working with his church to activate folks. And this is what we want to be doing. So let me know. Don't want to rant too much on that, but um, think about it. It's more affordable than you think. And if a couple people come at once, it makes it really worth my time. You can volunteer here on the farm, really learn what we're doing, get deep into it. That's what we should be doing, right? Um, so General Fresh is asking, when using IMO indoor, do we have to use the IMO indigenous or just our area? If you're doing it indoors, man, one of your best advocates is always the KNF protectors. Always, 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 I always talk about those guys. They're some of the best. They really, indoors, outdoors, all around. You need one microbe to do things. It is these guys, the protectors, lactic acid bacterias. Um, and using, making the curds in the way, spraying these guys into your plant. They're going to be your best bet. Um, but otherwise, getting some plants from outside, doing some IMO from outside will definitely help you, because it's really, in the soil, if you get the book, you'll read this simple concept of, neutral microbes that are around, good versus bad microbes, and the indigenous and the protectors, how all these guys work together and what they do. And so trying to, put that out there. Hey, how's it, George? Good to see you. Um, are there any active mentors together? Putting that list of folks together. In the KNF group, there's like mentors in the Facebook group. But it's kind of a terrible half implemented feature that I don't know what they were trying to do with that. Um, and yeah, I mean, here, if you need a mentorship, man, just do your stuff, bring it here each Sunday. Ask me, man. I'll be your primary mentor. um, the more you can teach classes, do this stuff. I'm made a commitment to be here each Sunday, and what else am I doing besides helping folks grow and become better natural farmers where they are? So, um, sweet Thomas, that's great, man. Making the cookie cutter handouts for the KNF recipes. And if you need books, let me know. You can print some where you're at. Get you together. Um, and yeah, George, you're gonna be doing some. Yeah, yeah, Cheryl, it does suck. The Facebook mentorship program. It's just a bunch of junk. Um, I'll be going to some event sharing. What I'm learning in regards to KNF, yes. Yeah, sharing it, telling those folks to tune in Sundays to this, teaching them. Gotta, yeah. So it's awesome. Yeah, you can send questions in advance. Let me just, since I'm here, let me just drop. Yeah, so just send um email there um to my email. It'll pop up here in the chat. Um and then I can um answer them in advance, or at least read them in advance, and then when you get there, maybe pull up some background information, help you out, do mentorships, and always, s- a little bit more reluctant on talking about this, but here, this episode here, sponsored by Pure KNF Foundation. You can find all these episodes and more office hours at KNF Support. And then you can also help financially support me if you want directly um, at naturalfarminghawaii.net/donate. But otherwise, we'll work something out and make sure it nourishes both of us. But spreading for me, mainly spreading the mission of the Pure KNF Foundation during this office hour is what I'm about. So spreading that microbial awareness, helping, mentoring, putting people out there. Yeah, go George. Make things come back with questions. Let's get you cranking because I know all the people around you are going to benefit from you being a better natural farmer. And yes, I think I will be coming to America this year. Uh, and we'll see. I'm trying to work it out. I definitely am coming to America because I'm getting married. but I don't want to. I'm trying not to stack too much around that right now, and really got to be careful with that. So if not, I may do a pure KNF tour. Yeah, I know you're in Europe, and I think Chris is coming over to Europe, and he'd be worth learning from um out there. So yeah, and here I am promoting him even after he's totally just um been his his own guy. But I think spreading natural farming is worth more than egos and personalities. Keeping those restrained and returning back to the whole I Ching of we're on the precipice, and it's our activity and our behavior that matters. So couple minutes over. Oh, congrats, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, so I'll be back next Sunday live. Appreciate you guys being here. Promote, spread this, like it, get folks to subscribe to the channel, all those good things. Or not, your choice. And maybe next week I'll do a StreamYard so that the folks with questions can actually be here, like next to me. Because I feel like if just me here doing this kind of little ranty, hopefully you like this format. Hopefully it's all working out. Hopefully you're learning. If I look here, fair amount of folks tuning in. So I appreciate you guys being here, and want to just send the KNF love out to the whole family. And yeah, um, yeah, so appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you next week. Tuning in 9 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time. Long live the natural farmer. Aloha.